Hey, this is Pastor Sam DeChico from Concord Baptist Church. Thanks for joining us today. This is our very first podcast that we are hosting at Concord Baptist Church. We're going to get to know some of the folks in our church. We're going to start with our leadership team and then just share stories of folks, how they got saved, what their ministry is all about. And so over the next number of weeks, I hope you'll enjoy as we share stories from people's lives here at Concord Baptist Church. Well, today we have a guest, Brother Alan Bradford. He is somebody that I consider almost like assistant pastor to me over these many years because he's worn so many hats. He has served well. Presently, he is a deacon, which is an elected position in our church. He's been doing that the last several years. So, Alan, good to have you on today's podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, Alan, tell us your testimony, how you came to the Lord, would you please?
Yeah, briefly, I went with my father to hear evangelist. It was a man and son breakfast, and I don't know what he said, but he said that if I didn't receive Christ as my Savior, I would go to hell, and I knew I didn't want that. So that's when I first remember. I was about 8 years old when I did that.
Okay, so it was at a men's prayer breakfast, or just a men's breakfast?
It was a men's breakfast.
Okay, all right.
We didn't pray afterwards.
Oh, you didn't pray, okay. You prayed to receive Christ, though, right?
Yes, I did that.
Good, good. Well, we do have men's prayer breakfasts here, which you come and help cook.
Yes.
So
I make the toast.
You do. We only allow you to make the toast, but you do a good job at making the toast. So you got saved. Now, I know that you were a pharmacist for many years. You went to pharmacy school, right?
Yes.
And I know that you used to stay at a funeral home. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's where I get my good flowers for my wife.
Yes, yes. We heard about that.
She did not appreciate that.
You have a lot of extra flowers left over from a funeral home, so Brother Alan would take that home to his wife until she found out about it, right?
Correct.
And then that ended.
That stopped.
All right. So anyhow, tell us how you, I know you're very involved in our church, but before you came to our church, I know you went to another church for a while. You came to our church. I know there were some issues, family issues going on when you folks came. Diane came with the kids, and then you came a little bit later. But tell us about your. Well, before you do that, let's talk about your wife. Of course, she's in heaven now. She passed away several years ago. But tell me her salvation experience, because she shared that with me when she was alive, and it was a fascinating story.
Yeah, we were just newly married, and we heard a crash, and there was a car that killed two students. One of them was a student that she knew about, and from that point on, she worried about whether she would go to heaven if she was killed in a car crash. So she didn't have that full assurance of salvation at that point. She was raised in a Roman Catholic church, and she just didn't have that assurance. And even though she believed in God, well, she wasn't sure she was going to make it. So from that point on, she was reading her Bible, and she read, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And that cinched it for her. And she came to know the Lord more intimately than before. And she was so excited. And then two Baptist, not from our church, but two Baptist women came by and knocked on her door, and it just confirmed what she had believed, that was true in the Bible.
Well, that's God's handiwork. He always makes sure that we hear the message, and it's always important to keep sharing the Word of God. You just never know who's going to be out there that maybe is seeking the Lord, and certainly she was, and she got saved. So you both came here as a family. We interviewed John, your son, several weeks ago.
Right.
He said he was 14 years old. He brought his harmonica.
Yes.
And
that I did not know.
Yeah, his harmonica and something else. I forget now what it was. But anyhow, so you came to the church, and I know you jumped right in and you got very involved. Tell us about some of the ministries inside the church, and then I know you had a ministry outside of our church likewise.
Well, inside the church, I taught Sunday school, primarily to little kids. That's where when I came from the church that we used to go to, which was too far away to come. I had a first and second graders, boys and girls, and I liked it. And my wife was a natural teacher. That was her profession, so I learned a lot from her. And she was kind of the backup disciplinarian person, and I got involved in that. So when I came in here, it was just natural for me to be involved in the choir, which we had done before, and also to be involved in the different services and the Sunday schools.
Now, your Sunday school, you teach a men's class, so you're not teaching children
I graduated.
anymore.
I went from little kids to big kids.
To the men's class. So he has a men's class. He's done that for, I guess, probably 20, 25 years or so, haven't you?
Yeah.
And now, you also had a prison ministry that you were involved with for many years. Tell us briefly about that.
Well, they just needed somebody to lead songs, and so I got involved in that. I was at a low point in my life at that point, and I said, what could hurt going to prison? I've heard about it, so let's try it out. So I went to prison, and I liked it. And I remember the first guy I talked to was an alcoholic, and it convicted me of certain things. And so I started leading songs. They said, who can lead songs? And I said, well, I'll give it a try. And then from there, they asked me to preach once a month, and I didn't steal. I borrowed your sermons.
Yes, you would at least tell me that.
Yes.
And you'd wait for a good one, and you'd copy it down, and
then I would tweak it a little bit.
Yes.
And then I would do that. So I enjoyed ministry up until the COVID days hit, and they closed down the prison.
And this was Chester County Prison, is that right?
Yeah, Chester County Prison.
So you were involved in prison. That was on a Monday night, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay. And for many years, Alan and I, we would go out to out in the community on visitation every Thursday night. And now,
that was fun.
Let me just tell everybody about Alan's situation. Alan and his family lived in West Grove, which is about 45 minutes away from the church, but yet they came for Sunday school, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night visitation, anything else we had going on, they drove all the time. We're here as faithful as you could ever want a family to be. And just several years ago, we were able to find Brother Alan a house right around the corner. So instead of coming 45 minutes to church, now it takes about 45 seconds to come to church. And so that's good. It's been a blessing, I'm sure, for you to not travel those many miles like you did before. Now, you also go out every Thursday with us to the nursing home, right?
Yes, I go and we lead sing. You actually do this mostly singing. We help.
You sing along with us, right?
There's others that help. And we give a little short testimony. We have to keep it really brief, but we give a short testimony.
Yes, if Alan has I don't want to say it's a problem, maybe it's just a gift that he has.
Blessing.
The gift of gab. And whenever we go to the nursing home, we're on a time schedule. I say, now you only got a minute or two. So he tries to keep within that. But we go to 8 different nursing homes, or 7, but 8 different services. Mm-hmm. So that's a blessing. I know also in the summertime, you're involved with our VBS. You're one of our VBS
Vacation
directors.
Yeah.
And Alan, you get to play the crazy character in all the skits,
I'm
right?
I'm always the one. I said I would never wear a skirt, but I wore a kilt one time.
A kilt. There's a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah. Every year, Alan and I are we're the skits. And, so we play off each other. I'm the straight guy, and he's comes out every week in character, or the entire week in a character. And the kids sometimes they don't even know that's who you are,
Well, they try to guess.
They try to guess. So we have a great week in VBS. So and then of course you teach in that also.
Yeah, I teach little guys, first and second graders. So I'm still teaching kids.
Great. And Alan, you actually led songs for many years at the church.
Yeah.
And then
so one night I think it was Pastor Schenenberger asked me, I need somebody to lead songs. Can you do it? I said, well, I did it in prison. I'll try it here. It's couldn't be any different. It's just a different clientele.
Yes, and that took, and you led for several years, and then your son eventually replaced you.
Yeah, I had a stroke, and I couldn't get up on the platform very well and stand there.
Yes, I know you had a stroke about a couple years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that hasn't slowed you down. It slows you down walking, but hasn't slowed you down as far as your ministry goes. You're still very faithful and serving the Lord in all these different areas. Now, one of the highlights of my life, and I'm sure probably Alan's life also, is our trips to Israel. Now, I've gone to Israel 7 times, and Alan, you came at least twice, right?
Twice, only twice.
Twice, and then you came with me to Egypt the 1 year, and Jordan.
Yes.
And now Alan likes to tell this story. We have 2 different...
It's a true story.
True in his mind. We have 2 different perspectives of this story. But tell us about our trip up to Mount Sinai.
Yeah, we had to go to Mount Sinai. We went up in the dark about 3 in the morning, and I was sure I'd be kidnapped because I was on this camel, and I was sure I'd be kidnapped because I was on this camel, and Miss Tillinghast was behind me, and this guy was proposing to her, and she declined. But we made it to the top of the mountain, and we were supposed to wait for the sun to rise. It's supposed to be very beautiful. So I'm waiting there with my camera. There must have been like 100, 200 people up there, and the sun comes up, and everybody says to leave, including you.
Yes, it's time to go. We saw it.
Yeah, and last thing I remember is you saying, Alan, it's time to go. And I said, I came all this distance just to see a sunrise like that. I could see that in Delaware. It's got to be more spectacular. And it was more spectacular if you waited another 15 minutes. But nobody was around by the time I was ready to leave. So I was the only one at the top of the mountain, me and God. And so I didn't know how to get down, because it's not like one mountain you climb up and you go down. So I followed the path downward, and I couldn't.
And didn't you run into a bunch of Polish-speaking people or something?
Yeah, they're like.
And so
I didn't know where they didn't speak English. So I didn't know
you
where
took
they
the
were
long
going.
route down.
Well, I met this Australian couple, and they said, I said to them, where are we going? And they said, we don't know either. We're lost. But eventually, about an hour and a half later, I saw this monastery at the base of the mountain, and so I knew I was on the right track.
So, and now Alan's story is that I left him on Mount Sinai. Now, you have to come down. There's several paths. Unfortunately, he took the long path.
No, wait a minute.
And then when you got to the bottom, I remember that my daughter had actually drunk
She ate my lunch.
Ate your lunch, and you took your juice box or something, because all our lunches were all together there.
And then Brother James comes up and he says, you want to go in the monastery and see some dead man's bones? And I'm like, I'm dead right now.
Right.
That's the last thing I want to see.
So, anyhow, so we have 2 different versions. My version is that he didn't follow the leader. I called for him to come. He wanted to stay. So his version is I left him. So, anyhow, we had a great trip, and finally, so he went with us that 1 year, and then your wife was always afraid to go to Israel, and so the 1 year she goes to Israel with us was the only dangerous time we ever had.
It wasn't in Israel, it was in Turkey.
It was in Turkey, and there was a terroristic bombing not far from where we were at. Unfortunately, some people didn't make it, but that's anyhow, God protected us. We were actually inside of an old church building when it happened. But that was a little unnerving, and I felt bad because I told your wife all the time, no, it's fine, everything's fine. And by the way, if you ever, of course, I wouldn't recommend going to Israel now because of all the issues going on, but normally it's usually a pretty good situation.
Yeah.
So anyhow, Brother Alan, you for many years were a pharmacist. I know you were at Riddle Hospital, and then you went to another place here in Delaware.
Yeah.
And you finally retired, I guess, when you had your stroke. Is that correct?
Well, I tried to get back, and then I couldn't stand for a long period of time, and we had to stand. So
right.
I finally had
so
to
you
leave.
retired, and your son hired you.
Yes, he did, to do a teaching here. And he pays me big bucks, too.
Big bucks, right, which is nothing.
Nothing.
So you tell us, you teach 2 classes. What classes do you teach?
Oh, on Monday I teach a class on life skills. So we do everything from how to put plumbing together, how to do drywall, how to check engine oils, and
do you know how to do these things?
I learned.
You
Google. I
it.
learned
Okay.
Google is great.
Yes. So that's Monday, and then what's your other day?
Then on Tuesday and Wednesday I do discipleship program, and last year I did the parables of Jesus. This year I'm doing the hard sayings of Jesus, like hate your father and mother, or let the dead bury the dead. So there are a couple examples we go through.
Well, the kids are getting I'm sure, getting a good experience as you as a teacher. So, anyhow, Brother Alan, I know for many years you've been a faithful church member, and I've always said if everybody, and it's not to boost you up here for this podcast, but I always said if I had 100 more families like like the Bradfords, it would be, our church would really be farther along as far as service and everything else, because your family came in, you wanted to serve, you have served,
Right.
you've done everything. Now, so tell us in closing. I know, of course, your wife Diane passed away several years ago, and you have 4 kids. Tell us something about the kids there for just a minute. Of course, we know we met John 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, you
So
met
tell us
John.
about the other 3. How's
The
that?
other 3, well, Danielle is still giving voice and organ lessons and piano lessons. She's very musically inclined. Andrea was a med tech in a lab, and now she has 2 little kids at home, so she's taking care of them, and she does a lot. She's very artistic. And then Christina is a nurse way out in California.
Arizona now.
Oh yeah, Arizona now. She moved from California because of all the trouble, and moved to Arizona, and she complains how hot it is.
And
When we're cold here, yeah, she has 2 kids.
she has 2 kids. So how many grandkids you have altogether then?
Only 9.
9. Okay, well, that's a blessing. Well, listen, Brother Alan, thank you for joining us today, and we hope you folks know a little bit more about Brother Alan Bradford. He's been a key member in our church for many years, and we pray that the Lord will give you many more years to serve him. Thanks for being our guest today.
Yeah, a few more anyway.
All right, thank you.